Welcome viewers to this session of Massive Open Online course. In this lecture, we will talk about different criteria used by biologists for classification of algae. Algae are simple plants having cellular level of organization. They have been described differently by different biologists. In two kingdom system of classification, algae were put together as a separate group called Thallophyta. In three kingdom system of classification proposed by Haeckel, bacteria were separated out from algae. In four kingdom system of classification proposed by Copeland in 1954, new kingdom was proposed and algae were split partly into kingdom Protista, Monera and kingdom Plantae. In five kingdom system of classification, prokaryotic algae were taken out. They were placed in kingdom Monera. Unicellular algae like Bacillariophyta and diatoms were placed in kingdom Protista under subkingdom Phycoprotista. And multicellular eukaryotic algae were placed in Phycophyta in kingdom Plantae. Same was repeated by Carl Weiss in six kingdom system and three domain system of classification. What are different criteria that have been used to classify algae? Algae are simple organisms having cellular level of organization. Some are unicellular. Many members are multicellular with different degrees of complexity. Some biologists have used complexity as a criterion for classifying algae into different groups. Those which have prokaryotic cell with uncompartmentalized cytoplasm have been placed separately as cyanophyta, now known as cyanobacteria. Whereas those having well compartmentalization in protoplasm, therefore possessing cytoplasm and endomembrane fluid and endomembrane structures are eukaryotes and divided into different divisions. Some biologists have ignored this complexity. They have put pigments as a prime criterion for classifying algae. If we visit through different algal groups, we find chlorophylls, carotenoids, phycobilins. Chlorophylls is a class of green pigments meant for trapping solar light and converting it into potential chemical energy. Algal chlorophylls are of 7 types. They include chlorophyll A, B, C, D, E, but all the 5 are not seen in same individual. Some algae have only chlorophyll A, as are seen in cyanobacteria or blue-green algae form. Some have A and B, we call them chlorophyta. Some have A and C, they are grouped as phaeophyta. Some have A and D, they are grouped as rhodophyta. Some have A and E, they are grouped as xanthophyta. So chlorophyll is one criterion for classifying algae. In addition to chlorophyll, algae possess carotenoids, which is a class of pigments of 2 types, carotenes and xanthophylls. Carotenes is a class of fat-soluble pigments with formula C40H56. Algae possess about 7 or 8 different types of carotenes. However, all types of carotenes are not seen in same individual. Beta carotene is very common carotene. Here, I would like to mention an important point that carotenes play key role in converting nascent oxygen produced during photolysis of water into molecular oxygen, and therefore they prevent chlorophylls from photooxidation. In addition to carotenes, algae have xanthophylls of 22 different types, and they play a role in classification of algae. Green algae, they have green color due to chlorophyll A and B. Brown algae, they have brown color not because of chlorophyll C, but because of a xanthophyll called phycoerythrin. Xanthophylls represent an important class of pigments included as carotenoids having formula C40H56O or C40H56O2. They are mono or dihydroxy carotenes having one or two hydroxyl groups. They also serve as one of the criteria for classifying algae, as they are specific to specific groups of algae. Green algae belonging to chlorophyta and chorophyta have green color due to chlorophyll A and B. Brown algae belonging to division Phaeophyta have color due to xanthophylls. Red algae also have red color because of xanthophylls. And orange yellow algae have orange color because of xanthophylls. A specific xanthophyle in a specific group serves as a criteria for classifying algae. Another feature which is taken into consideration while classifying algae is reserve food. Green algae store food as starch, which is a polymer of alpha-D glucose and a mixture of amylose and amylopectin. Amylose is a linear chain polymer. Amylopectin is a branched chain polymer of alpha-D glucose. Brown algae do not store carbohydrate. Instead, they store food as amylum stars. They store food in different form. Same is true with red algae and orange yellow algae. They store foods as oils. So reserve food is used by some biologists as a criterion for classifying algae. Some biologists have used flagellation as criteria. Algae have been found to have two types of flagella. One called whiplash flagella and the other called tensile flagella. Whiplash flagella are long and unbranched, which produce wave-like undulation to favor locomotion of cells. Tensile flagella are short flagella having branches. Their branches help them to enable the cell to move in forward direction. They show forward and backward strokes which play a role to develop driving force for enabling the cell to move in forward direction. Green algae have flagella of whiplash type. Brown algae in their gametes, especially male gametes, have one whiplash and one tensile flagella. Red algae do not have flagella at all. They also lack cilia. Here an important point to remember that all algae have centrioles, and red algae is the only group where centrioles and basal bodies are absent, and therefore neither cilia nor flagella are produced. Some biologists have used evolutionary relationship as a criteria for classifying algae into different groups. They have found that those algae which have simpler cells, simpler organization, and have evolved first have been placed first. Those which are complex, have multicellularity and very large size have been placed later on. Green algae represent a very important group in whole division algae or phycophyta, which serves as pave for the evolution of bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. Brown algae have become very large and have got adapted only to marine environments. Some brown algae are as large as 100 meters, like sargassum, but their evolution represents a dead end, as they have not given rise to any other group of organisms. Same is true with red algae. Red algae could not evolve higher groups. Another criterion used by biologists for classification of algae is life cycle. Life cycle is the series of events that occur in the individuals of a population from zygote of one generation to the zygote of next generation. It is said to be perfect when there is sexual reproduction, and life cycle is imperfect if there is asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is a type of reproduction where there is neither syngamy nor meiosis. Young ones are produced without meiosis and syngamy, and usually directly from somatic cells. Sexual reproduction is a type of reproduction which involves meiosis and syngamy. Meiosis in algae occurs in three ways or has three types. One, the simplest type of meiosis and the most primitive type of meiosis called zygotic meiosis, a meiosis that occurs in zygote. It is common in green algae. Second, gametogenic meiosis, also called pre-zygotic meiosis. It's a meiosis that occurs during gametogenesis and leads to the formation of gametes. It is seen in most brown algae. The third type of meiosis that occurs during spore formation. It's called sporogenic meiosis. It is seen in the algae which complete their life cycle in many phases, a haploid phase and a diploid phase. There are algae which complete their life cycle in a haploid phase called gametophyte and a diploid phase called sporophyte, and life cycle is haplodiplontic. There are some algae which have first phase diploid called sporophyte and the second phase called haploid. In broad sense, algal life cycles are divided into certain categories. One, haplontic life cycle. Second, diplontic life cycle. Third, haplodiplontic life cycle. Fourth, diplohaplontic life cycle. Fifth, haplontic life cycle, and so on. 4 life cycles are important in algae. One, haplontic life cycle. A life cycle in which all phases except zygote or haploid, very common in green algae. In this life cycle, zygote is the only stage where cells are diploid. Here, I would like to clarify you, haploid is a cell having single set of chromatin threads, or it is an individual having one set of chromatin threads in its cells. Diploid is an organism having 2 sets of chromatin threads in its cells, or a cell with 2 sets of chromatin threads. What is meant by set? Set is a group of chromatin threads in which no 2 threads have same genetic information. A set contains whole genetic information about all phases of life from biological birth to biological death. In diplontic life cycle, we say it is a life cycle in which all phases except gametes are diploid. In other words, gametes are the only representatives with haploid nature. All other stages are diploid. This is true of brown algae. If you see fucus, you will find all stages diploid except gametes. And here, meiosis is gametogenic. When sexual reproduction occurs, gamete forming cells undergo meiosis and give rise to haploid cells with power of fusion called gametes. Gametes on fusion give rise to a diploid cell called zygote or zygospore that serves as a bridge to pass genetic information from parents to young ones. Here I would like to mention, if the young one is produced by an algae through sexual reproduction, it is called offspring, and if it is produced through asexual reproduction, it is called ramette. In haplodiplontic life cycle, individuals first behave as haploids called gametophytes. Gametophytes produce gametes by mitosis, and therefore their gametes are called mitogametes. Mitogametes undergo fusion and give rise to zygote. Zygote is normally supposed to undergo meiosis, but does not do so. It divides by mitosis. Delay in meiosis in zygote leads to the development of second stage called sporophytic stage. Sporophytic stage is diploid. Gametophytic phase is haploid. Sporophytic phase produces spore mother cells. Spore mother cells undergo sporogenic meiosis that leads to formation of haploid spores. Haploid spores undergo mitosis and as a result give rise to a multicellular plant body called gametophyte to repeat the life cycle. Therefore, this type of life cycle shows alternation in generation, which is a phenomenon by which organisms pass from one phase to the other phase. That is haploid phase to diploid phase and from diploid phase to haploid phase. Fourth type of life cycle called diplohaplontic life cycle is a life cycle in which living organism exists first as diploid called sporophyte. Sporophyte produces spore mother cells which undergo sporogenic meiosis and give rise to haploid spores called meiospores. Meiospores divide by mitosis and mitosis leads to the development of haploid stage multicellular called gametophyte. Gametophyte produces sex organs or directly gives rise to male and female gametes. The gametes on fusion give rise to zygote or zygospore, both of which contribute in the formation of sporophyte to repeat the life cycle. Here, two words are used, zygote and zygospore. Zygote is a diploid cell produced by the fusion of gametes, having ability to produce a complete living organism. It serves as a bridge between two generations, that's parental generation and offsprings. It carries blueprint of life. Zygospore is a thick-walled, inactive zygote produced in response to unfavorable conditions. It has ability to perinate, that is, to remain inactive, but living during unfavorable conditions. It becomes active with the onset of favorable conditions and is able to produce complete plant body. Here, a very important point to remember is that algae have usually unicellular sex organs. If they have multicellular sex organs, all cells contribute in the formation of gametes. With regard to syngamy, we have seen several types of syngamy in algae, like hologamy, isogamy, anisogamy, and oogamy. Hologamy is the fusion of two individuals to form zygote. It is possible only when the individual is haploid and unicellular. Chlamydomonas is the best known example, which qualifies both the conditions. It is unicellular and haploid. Here one cell says I am a male gamete. The other cell says I am a female gamete. They come head on, fuse and give rise to zygote. This is the simplest type of syngamy called hologamy. Whole individual behaving as a gamete, fusing with other individual to form zygote. Second type of syngamy is called isogamy. When an individual produces identical male and female gametes, identical in shape as well as size, and their fusion results in the formation of zygote, it is called isogamy, fusion of gametes with identical shape and size. Third, an isogamy is a type of syngamy in which the two fusing gametes differ in size but have same shape. It's a little different from isogamy. Here male gamete is smaller but with same shape. Female gamete is larger. But both are motile and have ability to move for approaching each other. Oogamy is the most advanced type of syngamy, where female gamete is sessile, large, but male gamete is very small and motile. Male gamete approaches towards female gamete and fertilizes it. From evolutionary point of view, hologamy is considered as the simplest type of syngamy, and oogamy is considered as the most advanced type of syngamy. If you see Chlamydomonas, it's a model example in algae which shows all the types of syngamy. It has more than 500 species, and some species show hologamy, some show isogamy, some show anisogamy, some show oogamy. In contrast, if you go to brown algae, you will always find oogamy. Male gamete has two flagella, laterally, one tensile and one whiplash type. Female gamete is sessile. In red algae, both male and female gametes are sessile as flagella, and cilia are absent due to absence of centrioles and basal bodies. So viewers, we use presence or absence of centrioles, presence or absence of flagella, mode of reproduction, life cycle, also as criteria for classifying algae. Modern biologists start from morphology, go through reproductive processes, metabolic processes, genomes, physiological aspects, and then classify algae, taking into account all aspects from molecular level to structural level. Presently, algae have been divided into numerous groups. Some biologists do not follow three-domain system of classification. They still classify cyanobacteria as algae, unicellular algae, which should be in protists, they are still placed in algae. Among them is chlorella, Chlamydomonas. According to 5 kingdom system of classification, all unicellular eukaryotic organisms should be placed in kingdom Protista. But here you find Chlamydomonas, chlorella, and microsteria still in algae. The research regarding classification of algae is still incomplete, and much needs to be done. I invite young students, researchers to come forward, join this line of research to trace out the facts and contribute in this line of research. Thank you.